Shields up, Ironbreakers. We're kind of here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter, and today we're going to be talking about Iceborne. If you guys were not aware, the Gameinformer team has been given access to some exclusive Iceborne information, and they are going to be releasing it throughout this month in their YouTube channel, and I believe that in August they're going to have like a special feature in their magazine or whatever, and it's going to bring more Iceborne information. So as you guys can imagine, I've been all over that. As a matter of fact, some of the videos that they released have already shown us a couple of things, and some of the tweets that the Monster Hunter team has been putting out have been revealing a little bit more than I would care to know at this point, to be honest. Like, they've been revealing a lot of the armor sets that we hadn't seen yet in any footage, including the Valkana armor set has already been made public. So if you are going out and about through the internet and that is something that you would rather not know before you actually see it in game, I would advise you guys to try to start getting clear of some of the Twitter accounts and whatnot that are talking about Monster Hunter, because that stuff is just being posted all over the place. And I know not everybody really cares about that spoiler stuff or not. I kind of do, and I understand when people do care. It's nice to actually craft the armor and see what it looks like in the game for the first time. There's something special about that, which is one of the reasons why I avoid leaks and stuff. But nowadays it just feels like, doesn't matter where you look, it's not even a leak anymore. It's just like being publicly posted everywhere. So I'm not going to show you guys what the armors look like. If that is something that you are scared of, you can go look for that information yourself if that is something that you're interested in. But I am going to talk about the next monster that was announced, and that probably came as a surprise to absolutely no one. It is Barioth. And for anyone that has played Monster Hunter before, we know that pretty much Barioth shares a skeleton with Nargacuga as well as Tigrex, and it is also a monster that usually hangs out in icy regions. So it was pretty much a no-brainer. I think that from the moment that we knew that Tigrex was coming, even before, no wait, Nargacuga was announced before Tigrex. So I think Nargacuga came along and we started saying, oh, probably Tigrex is going to come. Tigrex came along and everybody was like, we're going to get Barioth for sure. So Barioth was officially confirmed. They actually have a video in the Gameinformer channel that shows like a turf war between Barioth and Bombaru. Again, I'm not going to show that stuff in case you want to experience that first time in the game by yourself. But if you want to check it out, again, the link to the Gameinformer channel is going to be in the description of this video, so you can go check that stuff out there. Now, specifically on the video with the questions and answers, a couple of things that I thought was interesting is apparently about half of the story is going to take place in the old maps. So half of the story is going to take place in Hoarfrost Reach. The other half is going to be us revisiting older areas. Now, this is not something that I find surprising per se, because anyone who's played a G-Rank expansion knows that a big portion of the experience is going back to the older maps and fighting some new monsters there, as well as fighting souped-up versions of the older monsters to further upgrade your equipment. This is mostly for the people that have never really played a G-Rank expansion, and apparently there's quite a few of them, because there's still people in the video where I tried to explain what to expect from the G-Rank expansion. Still a lot of people there that were just like, no, I don't believe you, and everything sucks and everything's terrible. And I was like, okay, man, whatever, you do you. But yeah, this is something that we've all kind of expected. They just kind of confirmed it in that video that I talked about. Now, another thing is you still can't skip cutscenes. If you are watching a cutscene for the first time and your friends want to team up with you, you still have to go through the same process that you had to go through in Monster Hunter World. That is not changing. That is pretty much the way that they designed it, and that is the way that it is going to remain in Iceborne. So if you're expecting to be able to just go in with people and, you know, just don't have to worry about that cutscene stuff, that is still not a thing. And it's not really a big deal for me personally, because usually I go through the entirety of the story solo the first time around regardless, but I can understand that this is a bit of a frustrating point for a lot of players, and I think that it could have been done better. Like, one of my suggestions would be just let your friends go in with you, but nobody can skip the cutscene. There you go. And everybody just sees a cutscene for their own character, and then you just get on with it. Like, I think that would be a lot easier than having to go through this process of, oh, I'm gonna go do the thing now, and after that I'm gonna fire the SOS and you can join me. And you know, that whole thing just feels kind of weird, particularly when, you know, when you actually have people that are trying to go through the game simultaneously and experiencing the story at the same time. So I'm not saying like, oh, it's fine, or like, it could definitely be improved the way that that system works. I don't think that skipping the cutscenes is the best way to go about it, I think the best way is to just have both players be able to experience the cutscenes at the same time. Hell, you can even include the other hunters in there. Like, you've done this in Lost Planet 2. I really don't understand. This has been done before, and it worked fine in Lost Planet 2. I don't know why don't they just do it here, but either way, again, it's not really a big deal because when you really get right down to it, the story portion of the game is probably going to be about 20% of your actual playtime, because when you're done with the story, that's when the game actually kind of begins. That's when the grind for better gear and min-maxing and all that stuff, that's when it begins. So I don't really think that is a big deal. Now, another thing this is something that probably most of us have already expected, but pretty much they confirmed it. They are not planning on showcasing any new weapons in Iceborne. Now, I don't think we've ever seen introduction of and when I say new weapons, I want you to understand I'm talking about new weapon types. So like something different from the 14 weapon types that we're talking about, because there's definitely going to be new weapons. Like, you're going to be crafting new insect glaives, new charge blades. You're going to be crafting new weapons for everything. There's going to be a whole new weapon tree, most likely. There's going to be tons and tons of weapons for the craft. What I mean is there's not going to be any new weapon types. Now, again, I don't think any G rank expansion ever brought about new weapon types. It usually rebalances the current weapons in the game and makes some playstyles more powerful. Other playstyles get a little bit of nerf. Some playstyles get changed in different ways. But usually you don't get new weapons. New weapons, you tend to get them with new games. Like the last time that new weapon types were implemented, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was in Monster Hunter 4, when they introduced the Insect Glaive and the Charge Blade, which were the two last weapons to be added to the roster of weapons of Monster Hunter. So they're not planning on introducing any new weapon types in Iceborne. So if you were expecting on that, that's not really going to be a thing. Hoarfrost Reach is in fact going to be the only new location. Again, I would like to emphasize, despite the fact that they said this, there's probably going to be like smaller areas that you will go through besides just Hoarfrost Reach. There's going to, like, the example I gave last time is the arena where you fight Zenergiva. There's probably going to be something like that for the new final boss, because, you know, Velkhana's not going to be the final boss. It's going to be the flagship. Then there's going to be a final boss after Velkhana. At least that's what I would imagine, because that's the way it's always been. So I still believe there's going to be like smaller areas, maybe like a different arena or something like that, and maybe like an additional arena for the final boss. Something on those lines, but, you know, major areas where you actually fight monsters consistently, they're going to keep the maps that we have right now and add Hoarfrost Reach in them. I do believe, and this is not something that they've asked, but I do believe they're probably going to change some of the existing maps. They're going to change them around slightly, maybe change some of the mechanics around them or whatever. But, you know, some minor changes that will work themselves into specific quests and whatnot. Again, this is something that I believe. It is not something that has been officially confirmed, so keep those things in mind. There is no Sixth Fleet because they asked this question. I was wondering, that's interesting. Because you guys know there's been the First Fleet, the Second Fleet, the Third Fleet, and our character comes in with the Fifth Fleet. So he was wondering if there was going to be like a Sixth Fleet that would come in to go into Hoarfrost Reach. They said that is not the case. There's only the Fivers there, so only the Fifth Fleet is going to keep going. Now, this next one is something that I suspected was the way that it was going to work. A lot of people have asked me this question specifically throughout my live streams, and I've always answered pretty much the same way that they say here. But the questions asked were, do people need to finish the story of Monster Hunter World to actually embark on Iceborne? And what Ryozu said is that once you download Iceborne, like you buy Iceborne, you download Iceborne, you install it. Once you install Iceborne, you get access to all of the Iceborne mechanics. So stuff like the Clutch Claw and the Slinger Burst and the new moves for the different weapons. You get those instantly. You don't have to complete the story of World to get access to the new moves and stuff, right? So all of the new mechanics, so to speak, they get implemented instantly when you install Iceborne. However, in order to actually start the story of Iceborne, you're going to have to finish the story of Monster Hunter World. Now, what do they mean by finish the story of Monster Hunter World? I'm going to go ahead and theorize that that's going to be when you hit the credits. So that's pretty much after you defeat Zenergiva, which is the final boss of Monster Hunter World. So you're going to have to at least get the Hunter rank 16, and only after that you're going to be, at least I think it was 16, right? At 16 is when you defeat Xeno'jiiva. Anyway, only after you defeat Xeno'jiiva, then you'll be able to embark on the next quest that takes us into the Hoarfrost Reach, just in case you guys are wondering about that. One question that was asked was whether or not Iceborne players were going to be able to play with regular Monster Hunter World players, and apparently the answer is yes. Which probably means that Monster Hunter World vanilla players will be able to play with Iceborne players, but they will most likely not be able to make use of the new mechanics like the Clutch Claw, Slinger Burst, all of that stuff. Whereas and I'm actually wondering if Iceborne players, when playing with Monster Hunter World players, if they can use those mechanics. Like, would they allow Monster Hunter World players to watch everybody else doing like Clutch Claw and Fit Slinger stuff and whatnot? Like, on a flip side, it's a very good marketing tool. Like, for instance, let's say I go play with some friends that only have regular Monster Hunter World, and I show up in their game and I'm like, oh yeah, man, look at this thing. I can jab into the monster, this friggin' worm stake. What's it called again? I forget. The worm stake blast thing. Jab it in there. They're like, oh, dude, that's sick. And it's like, they're going to be like, oh man, I want to buy Iceborne too, you know? So in a way, it's a good marketing tool. And another way, it also means like doing a massive update to Monster Hunter World to showcase all of those new systems and the players still not being able to use them. So I don't know how that's going to work out exactly. We'll have to wait and see, but it is good to know that at the very least, we'll be able to play with our friends, even if they don't get Iceborne, which, let's face it, everybody should be getting Iceborne. Let's be honest. Anyway, Iceborne. Now this one was the one that really made me want to do this video because I wanted to talk about this particular question, which is Iceborne will be the final expansion to Monster Hunter World. Now, this is interesting for a number of reasons. Like, a lot of people were theorizing, like myself included. I was wondering what they were going to do, like, because with the bases that they have in Monster Hunter World, they could potentially just keep making expansions almost like a live service game and keep adding on top of this game until, I don't know, and forever. Basically, they could turn this almost into a Destiny, even though it is technically speaking not a live service game because you can play it offline. You don't have to connect to any servers, even though you do connect the servers if you happen to be online. But if you're offline, you can still play the game offline, continue with your character, continue with your progression, no problem whatsoever. And it's like, they could go with that business model of just releasing repeated expansions for this game, but they are saying that, nope, this is pretty much just like G Rank. This is going to be the only expansion that Monster Hunter World is getting, and Master Rank works very much like G Rank. They've said this in the past. They've said it again in the video that I told you guys about. And it's something that I really like. The fact that they are not just like adding on top of this game forever, because they continue innovating the game, and this game just kind of becomes something that you can eventually replay in the future if you want to relive, Monster Hunter World, because it's not dependent on any online server to work. Like, a couple of years from now, are people going to be able to play Destiny 1? I doubt it. A couple of years from now, how many MMOs have died because of the fact that they weren't able to sustain a large enough player base to continue affording like server costs and all this other bullshit, right? How many MMOs have died because of that stuff? How many live service games are going to die in the next couple of years because players move on from game to game to game? So that is one of the things that I actually really like about the fact that Monster Hunter World could have gone down that route and didn't, because essentially you got Monster Hunter World, now you're going to get Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and after that, like, they're going to add a couple of monsters like they did for World. They've already said that they're going to do that it's going to receive a comparable amount of updates to what World has gotten, so you can expect some new monsters after Iceborne comes out, and events like seasonal events and stuff like that is still going to be happening. But ultimately, after Iceborne, like when people are kind of done with Iceborne, they're going to make a new game. And that is something that is just like, it's so rare nowadays. Isn't that amazing? It's so rare nowadays to actually see developers that just go, yeah, we have this game, which could be a perfectly valid live service. But instead of going down that route, we're just going to do an expansion for it, because we've always done expansions for our game that add like a ton more hours for people to play and continue having fun in that world. And then we're going to move on to our next project. And that's so exciting to actually know that they're not just gonna milk Monster Hunter World into oblivion. They're gonna make another Monster Hunter, and it's gonna be something different. I believe that it's been rumored that it's going to be a Switch exclusive Monster Hunter, which is pretty cool to see that going back into the handheld, specifically with the Switch, because I can put it in the freaking thing and play it on the TV. And I'm not sure if you guys can tell, but I'm super excited to see what the next Monster Hunter project is going to be, even beyond Iceborne. But either way, it was just like, it was super cool to see that they're like, oh no, Iceborne is just the first of many expansions. We're going to do, now it's Iceborne, then it's going to be Heatborne, and after that it's going to be Lightningborne, and after that it's going to be, because they could go that route, but they're not going to. And that is something that it really blew my mind, because I was not sure that that was going to be the case. That was one of the few things that I wasn't sure what their plans were after Iceborne, because again, they could have kept milking it, and most likely it was going to be awesome for at least for a time, but it's much more exciting to know that they're like, no, here's this game, and now that this game is done, we're moving on. Like, more developers need to learn to do that, because that right there is sustainable. Actually moving on to the next project, as opposed to like, no, let's make people play this game forever. Because everybody wants to have their fucking little live service, even in single player games like fucking Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'll just go on another rant if I go down that route. I better not start there. But yeah, like, you know, the Assassin's Creed Odyssey with the microtransactions and all of that other bullshit for their single player game, which I found ridiculous. Again, at this point, people are just going to say, Rurikon, you're just a Monster Hunter fanboy. You're right. Sorry. Actually, not sorry. Not even sorry. Anyway, those were all the things that I wanted to talk about. Let me know what you guys thought about all of these things. And remember, go watch that video. It's pretty funny. If you're a Monster Hunter fan, you're probably going to like that video a whole lot. And yeah, just let me know what you think about it. Comment section down below. If you did enjoy this video, please remember, hit that like button. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me out so friggin' much. Just hit that like button. It doesn't give, it's not any trouble at all. Just hit it. It helps me out a lot. And if you do enjoy my content, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, all of the usual stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Stay strong, and may your shields never break.